There's this one time I created a character for like a fighting game. Took me like 3 years. And then when I finished it and then showcased it to YouTube, got like 200 views for 3 years. Man, that sucks.
So in 2021, I decided that I was going to make my dream game. And 3 years later, I realized that that decision was a mistake, and this mistake almost broke me. When you start getting into game dev, one piece of advice that you hear is not to make your dream game just yet. But if you're like me,
Why not make a dream game just yet? Okay, continue.
you're probably allergic to listening to good advice. You probably saw a lot of people's dream games go well and a lot of success stories that you've heard of, and you probably live your life by the motto, fuck it, we ball. So then you ignored the advice and you just did it anyway.
I'm gonna do my own thing.
But I promise you
Miles Morales.
that those nerds who gave you that advice were right. I wish I listened to them, and if you're just getting into game dev or you want to make your own dream game soon, you should listen too. So I spent the next 3 years trying to make this dream game into reality. I spent all the time I could making and coding the game and playing it, and I was doing everything I could with
Man, I wish I could code. I can just draw. That sucks for me, man. I want to make games so bad, but it ain't in the cards for me to make a game.
writing and trying to come up with a game world. I was dabbling in streaming, I was making videos, and I was posting TikToks and whatever, doing all this while also being a university student. I can genuinely say that I poured years of passion, creativity, blood and sweat into this, and then sometime last year I just realized it.
Years. I can only imagine the pain, the time it took. There's this one time I created a character for like a fighting game. Took me like 3 years. And then when I finished it and then showcased it to YouTube, got like 200 views for 3 years. Man, that sucks.
It's been 3 years of work and I basically have nothing to show for it. By that point, I was burnt out, I was unsatisfied, and I honestly couldn't even touch the project for a couple of months. Since then, I've been asking myself questions like, where did things go wrong? Why I stopped working on a project that I've been working on for years? And what could I have done differently? So today, I'm going to answer these questions and hopefully stop you from making the same silly mistakes that I did. So let's talk about exactly
Let's see if you can.
what I was working on first to get some context. So I love action games. I love cool characters and cool superpowers, and I don't know how to describe it. I love it when a game makes you feel like a real anime character or a superhero or something.
Anime superheroes. Yeah, that's the way we love it.
Like that. I think when cool abilities meet a great combat system and everything just clicks together nicely, that is my favorite type of game. When I think of games that had a big impact on me, it was games like the Infamous series, Prototype, Warframe, things like adding superhero mods to games.
Never played any of those games. I wonder how good they were. What's this Naruto game right here? Oh, must be a mod like he said.
Like Skyrim and Minecraft. So when given the tool to make a game like the ones that left an impression on me, I think I might have gotten a bit too carried away. I threw in all those things that I liked in this unholy soup of an idea called Codex Blaze. The idea was supposed to be this action game that made you feel like you were in a shonen universe, something like Naruto or JJK or My Hero Academia, and it was going to be set in a university setting. In between of my lectures, I spent a few
University setting? Come on, man. School setting? Well, I guess people like the school setting. It's the time when we were most free, in the mind at least, when we could just dream up things that we wanted to do. And then life happened, and then, yeah, we're here now. We're here.
months working on mechanics and slapping together whatever I could, and feeling inspired by Michael Kocher and some other game dev YouTubers, I uploaded my first YouTube video. No, that one doesn't count. And for a new YouTuber, it did some pretty decent numbers. So I felt like I was on the right path and I was doing the right thing. And of course, when I showed my friends, they were all super supportive and they were like, oh yeah, wow, this is crazy. How did you make
supportive friends? That's one lucky friendship you got there with those people. Not a lot of people would really want support when they're making their stuff. Good on you, man. Good on you.
Make this. In hindsight, you could have showed them like a blank template and like a simple level, and because they don't know what the bar is for a good game, they're probably going to gas that up anyway.
Oh, this is very nice. Hey, we gotta get this framed.
So at this point, I was super hopeful and I felt like, cool, I have a plan. I just need to keep working on this. And what could go wrong? A lot of things could go wrong. A lot of things did go wrong. I think I've narrowed it down to 3 specific areas where I fucked up on, or things that I just failed to consider. These were experience, scale, and the idea. So starting with experience. So if I could time travel, I would time travel back to the point where I was creating that project, and as my hand was on the mouse or something, like reaching to it, I would like stab myself in the knife to stop myself from making the project. Okay, one, there's probably better moments to travel back in time too, and I probably don't need to do anything that extreme, but you get what I mean. See, that idea you have, it could be the most perfect idea. It could be the idea that could make you £1 gajillion pounds. But if you're new to game dev or you lack the right experience, then I promise you that you do not have the skills to bring that idea to life. And please do not say, fuck it, we ball, because you do not in fact ball. You're actually quite...
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. I guess we'll need help. Like someone who actually knows gaming to like oversee what we do. But you know this world right now, dog eat dog, no one wants to help no one. Sad though, but continue.
Terrible. I mean, your code is a mess. You're using double for loops everywhere. You're relying too heavily on tutorials. You have hard references everywhere and you don't even know any C++. Good performance? Yeah, just throw that out of the window. Optimized code? What the fuck are you talking about? Let's not even talk about your skills in modeling, level design, or animating. Especially if you're in
animation. It's fun for me, man. But I've never tried 3D animation. That must be a pain.
solo development, which you most likely are. You have to be a master of all these different skills, and right now you're starting at ground zero probably. So by the time that you do develop these skills to just an average or good enough point, you're going to find yourself constantly having to rewrite code or remake things, or even at some points restart your game. I would compare trying to make your dream game as a beginner like being in the tutorial section of a game and then trying to take on a mid to end game level boss. I mean, you know, it depends on the scale of your game, but we'll get to that a bit later. So this is why everyone says that you should make small games that you can finish quickly. So now personally,
I knew someone that was doing that. I guess he was on the right track after all.
I could never take that advice too hard, and that's because I really wasn't passionate about making small games. I'll be real, I don't really mess with the whole small scale indie game culture that we have now. It's like, they're great, you can create a lot of impressive games, and you know, with game jams too, some of the work that people create with such a small time.
I did a game jam with someone once. It was pretty fun. Teamwork. God, I miss teamwork.
Time frame is genuinely impressive. Back to indie games, they usually have like such amazing stories and graphics and art styles and everything, but they just don't appeal to me because at my core I just prefer action games. In my head, why would I spend months pouring hard work into like some 2D pixel art game that I wouldn't even want to play?
Pixel. I guess the young people really hate the pixel art for real, but that's my time. And it's easier. Is it easier? No, it's pretty... I think it's harder, but I'm just used to pixel. Yeah, it's something, all right.
I know a lot of people can relate to the sentiment that they're not going to be able to pour weeks to months of passion into a project that they're not really interested in. So I think if I could start again, what I would do now is still work on smaller games and smaller projects, but focus on making full small games out of the superpowers and the action combat and the characters that I liked. So instead of saying, oh, I'm going to make a full open world game about the Flash, maybe just make like a small super speed wave based game with one level that you could probably finish in about a month. If I had done that, I think I would be still very engaged and passionate about what I'm making, but it would have given me time to learn how to make a game and publish a game at a better pace. And then the roster of projects I would have made would be so much bigger than it is now.
Yeah, that's something I really dislike. I rather start something, finish it, but yeah, I guess doing it that way would be more sufficient.
I think scale or scope is probably a better word that I should use. The script kind of says scale, so I'm just going to stick to that. So when I was making Codex Blaze, I knew full well that I wasn't going to be able to make an open world RPG game by myself. I mean, don't worry guys, I was not completely delusional. In my head, I planned to release some sort of
RPG game by yourself. Sounds crazy. But I'm sure there's people who have done that, but it took them probably like a decade or so. So I guess, yeah.
demo that could showcase the main content of the game. So instead of making 10 characters with 20 different weapons, I was just planning to make 3 characters with a few weapons and hope I could get a Kickstarter or maybe get a team at that point and get some funding. But even that I couldn't do, and that was mostly because of my skill level. As I said before, every time you get better,
Skill level is a real problem. Well, now people are only focused on the really high skill level people for... Then again, are they? There's still some low level people who still get like support and people support their work. So I'm guessing it can go either way.
you now need to redo all the characters and the models and the weapons and then the abilities, and I could go on. It's really easy to say that you're gonna have 10 different enemies and 10 characters and whatever, but you're gonna find that even just making one is pretty difficult, especially to a great level. So you need to cut that number down to a realistic amount. Then there's also this thing called feature creep. Let's say you've got your game to a certain point where it's like, all right, this is a thing on its own. Then you start thinking, hey, what if I add this mechanic, or what if I add that mechanic? And all of a sudden there's just too much to work on, especially since you're likely to be by yourself. I've seen it quite a bit, developers overpromising content that will never see the light of day, and then
Yeah, man, that's the nature of gaming. You gotta just do what you can and hope for the best. But usually you don't finish what you start when it comes to gaming, because it's just so much for one person to do, and then teamwork is such a really hard thing to find in our days. So yeah, man, sad world, man.
just being stuck in this cycle of devlogs and this is coming out soon, and that endless loop just happens for years. So when it comes to scale and scope, it is a battle that you have to pick very wisely, and most of it is dictated by your experience level. If you know that you really want all these features and all these mechanics or these ideas or items, I would just say write them down. Design your systems to be flexible and scalable so you're able to add these ideas further down the line, but don't feel that you need to add them until you've proven that your core concept is good and that you can actually add them. So with my current project, I've got a ton of requests for characters that I should add, or possible game modes or different maps. But now that I've learned from my previous experience, for the sake of putting out a finished product, I know that I'm only going to put out a few characters and one map and one game mode, because even that is quite a challenge, but I'm able to stay on top of it now because I've grown as a developer. Now that people are
But then if you do that, people these days aren't patient. They want something fully finished for you, and then they'll support it because they've been burnt so many times by unfinished games. So it's gonna be tough if you do it that way. Hopefully it's really good and people will be like patient, but that's not the case these days.
playing my game and giving feedback, I can adjust things and redo them without being too overwhelmed by what I have to do, because I can handle the amount of characters I have right now. And the framework that I have makes it really easy for me to add more characters, maps, game modes, or whatever in the future. So I think a good rule is to think about what is the smallest version of your idea that you can realistically bring to life, and then leave the door open for future improvements. Alright, so if you feel like I'm low-key spitting, then leave a like and let me know what you agree with so far. I'm very far from being
Yeah, I'll leave a like. Good information, good talk. Continue.
professional in my journey or even being successful, but as a game developer and as someone who is creative, whatever, I feel like I'm learning so much, and I've just been really meaning to share all this that I'm learning over the years. So if you're interested in more content like this, I have more ideas planned out, so subscribe if you want to see some of that. So in this video, we've already established that I didn't have the skill to implement my idea, and that even when I did have some skill, the idea that I wanted to do was just way too big for me to do. You know, it's like I was biting off more than I could chew, and that's the first time I've used that phrase, and I feel so fancy using that.
Get a team, man. You gotta get a team. That's all that matters these days. Teamwork, teamwork, teamwork.
But there was also one thing I didn't consider, and that was the fact that my idea actually just sucked. I think when I hear a lot about like ideas for games and everything, it's likely been done before by someone better, or it's just too busy, it's too much, or in the other end, it's too boring or generic. I think working on your dream game just means that this is likely what you...
Bro, everything would be generic these days. Can someone really come up with a completely new idea? And then when you come up with that new idea, will people like the new idea? Because people actually want the same thing over and over, but then complain that it's the same thing over and over. Man, people are weird.
You envision as your masterpiece, like your grand gift to humanity. And honestly, my masterpiece would have been generic and mid. Yeah, on paper it didn't sound bad. You had this cast of characters that were going to be really cool, and then you had this city and you were able to use powers, and you know, and it was gonna have some great action combat. But then looking back on it, what's the difference between that and a game like Zenless Zone Zero or Senran Kagura or DMC or the Persona games? Even if I had the...
Exactly, but people like what they know, so you would have probably seen some amount of success.
skill and the funding to achieve my dream game, there was nothing really that new or interesting that was going to be able to add to the existing market. I used to make this joke once I realized this, that the only thing that was going to differentiate my game from the ones that I was referencing, like Zenless Zone Zero or DMZ, was that my game was going to have like more than one black person. But think about it.
Yeah, you know, that black thing, it's the only thing black people can focus on. Gotta have that black character, man. Gotta have it, gotta have more black people. More black people.
How often is your first painting going to be your masterpiece? How often is your first original song the best song you can put out? If you watch an anime or you read a manga, it's pretty uncommon that that mangaka's first story is going to be their masterpiece. And even for creators...
Yeah, that's true. The Naruto guys, the DBZ, Akira Toriyama, yeah, they had other mangas before their greatest manga, so he's right. He's definitely right.
Who are instantly successful on their first try, they tend to have a lot of trouble reproducing that level of success, and then they get hit with the one-hit wonder allegations and then they just fall off. Creative ideas that stand out, I think they're ultimately measured by novelty in a specific domain or a creative solution to a pre-existing problem. That might have just been an overcomplicated way of me trying to say that a creative idea makes you go, wow, it just has some shock factor to it. And what I realized is that creativity and having good ideas is a skill, and I think that doing smaller projects,
yeah, that's definitely a skill that I don't have much of, but I draw anyway. I create
is a very great way of developing those skills. Unfortunately, I realized that even if I could finish my game, it wouldn't even be anything special because it's just generic. So another reason not to make your dream game, at least not yet, is that your dream game is likely mid. So by the time that I realized all these things, and by the time I could rework my game into something that could be realistically done, I couldn't even bring myself to continue working on it. The thing is, I don't regret the path that I took, because in those 3 years, I had learned a lot of valuable skills. I once restarted my game so I could make use of Unreal Engine's gameplay ability system and finally learned some C++, and a year and a half later it's paid off so much because I'm still using it now, and the things that I've done with it would honestly shock myself from like 2 or 3 years ago. Refactoring my game last year to be more like Lyra was a pain that took almost 2 months. I've been remaking a lot of the systems in my game to fit with like the Lyra standards and the Lyra method, and that took a lot of time. I did everything there was like mind-blowing. So but those practices and techniques that Lyra taught me, they will probably stick with me forever as a game developer because they were so genius to me. Thanks to that, it's made me level up. Even though that it didn't come to anything with that project, with the new project it has. All those videos I made that didn't go well at all, they gave me experience in making better videos a lot faster. I'm also really glad that I gave up on that project because it gave me the freedom to pursue something new. And this project that I'm working on now, this like DC Rivals fan game, I'm having.
Come on, bro. That's nah. Come on, bro. You know where you got that idea from. You know. He knows.
Been so much fun making. Right now, I'm not overwhelmed by the scale. I'm learning a lot of things, and my video making skills and my ideas with coming up with engaging content, well, they've helped me reach a much wider audience than I had before. Yes, I know that DC Rivals isn't a revolutionary, like wholly unique idea. Loads of
Exactly. Come on, bro.
people have the idea, but I actually had the skills to bring it to sort of life, and that actually never was my goal. My goal was to make a fun small game that I could complete in under a year, boost my portfolio and gain a bigger audience and learn a bunch of new stuff. And when it comes to that, the idea is serving its purpose. So what can we take away from my experience? Well, everyone just goes on shouting about chase your dreams, you should do it now, do that thing that you want to do now. But it can really help if you just press pause on making your dream game and take the time out to learn and publish some smaller games. You give yourself experience in setting manageable targets. You learn how to multitask, get better at coming up with creative and fun game ideas, and you're actually able to publish and market games. So that way, by the time you actually start your dream project, you can actually bring it to life. I really hope that this video doesn't deter you from making your dream game or pursuing making games. I just don't want people.
Man, making games these days seems crazy unless you have a big team behind you. But, you know, anything is possible. So, yeah. Make games, people. Make games if you can.
Falling into the same traps that I did. But the mistakes that I did make, it almost made me want to quit game dev entirely, and I'm glad that I learned from it, and I'm glad that I didn't, because I love what I do. That being said though, if you want to see the progression of my old game project and just how much I learned and was able to do, then check out this playlist, because although it did fail, I feel like the progression and the stuff that I did come up with was pretty good. Anyway, that wraps up this video. Thank you and see you next time.
Really good, awesome video, bro. But man, that Marvel Rivals looking game, you're gonna get some people dissing you because it's so similar, bro. But peace.